Ellis here, sports performance lecturer. Just last week I did an online interview with a good friend of mine, an elite athlete, Abbie Taddeo, 100-metre hurdler. She represented the country on 7 different occasions. We spoke about all things sport, but more importantly, the action she takes every day to be the best she can be. It's an interesting listen, and I really like the part where she talks about the emotions that she felt when she found out the Olympics were cancelled. Check it out and let us know what you think. Ellis here, sports performance lecturer. I'm really excited about this interview today. I'm joined by, first and foremost, a very good friend of mine, but an elite athlete and in her own right. Abbie, how are we today?
Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Very well, very well. Now, Abbie and I have known each other for a little while, and I think we get along all right. But I'm going to ask her some questions today and talk to her about what she's currently doing in the industry, I guess. So, Abbie, you're a 100-metre hurdler. You're also 4x100 metre relay and 100-metre sprinter as well. The interesting, the amazing thing here is you have made national level for the last 9 years, and you've represented Australia on 7 different occasions. Tell me, what's it like to represent your country?
Absolute honour. I think, something in terms of being an individual, it's always something that you inspire to do and inspire to always be the best you can. So I think putting on your country's colours is something that I can't really express or put into words. It's a feeling that I guess you won't be able to feel unless you do it yourself. But yeah, it's a very proud moment for myself, and to be able to do that on many occasions, I've been pretty stoked to be able to do that.
I think to do it on 7 different occasions is something special. But let's go back to the first time. How did you find out that you were going to represent your country, and what was your immediate emotion?
So back in 2011, I got a call. I was 17 years old. I think I was actually sitting in a class in high school, sitting my year 12, and wow. I got this phone call from Athletics Australia to say, congratulations, you'll be representing Australia for the 4x100 metre relay and the 100 metre hurdles at the Commonwealth Youth Games. At that point, I was at a Catholic school at this stage. We weren't allowed phones. I pulled my phone out because I knew there was a phone call meant to be coming, whether I was making the team or not.
Sure.
And I kind of just screamed in joy, and it was such a surreal moment for me that I ended up going straight to the office and calling my mum to leave school so I could celebrate with my family, and I didn't finish off that day of school.
Fantastic. Abbie, the amazing thing about that is I'm somebody within my coaching experience that likes to think that I specialise in body language, and I just saw how you answered that and the emotions that brought back up for you. What a special moment. But let's go back. Let's go back to the start. How did athletics begin for you?
I think I was about 6 I would have been about 6. I just joined a little A's club that was down home. It was pretty local. And I think my parents ideally pushed me towards that just to learn fundamentals of running, jumping, throwing type thing. And then I actually gave it away for quite a number of years. I wasn't interested, wasn't fun for me. Went in and played 1,000 team sports. And then I realised the older I kind of got, heading towards like my teens, I hated relying on other people. I knew I was quite a competitive person and I like to win. So I realised that team sports maybe wasn't something for me, because I felt like I was bringing 110% to the table, but, all my other components and people that I was playing with at the time was only there when they were bothered. So for me, I kind of just drifted off into the track and field again. I was pretty lucky that my grandfather decided to coach me as be my first coach, and I realised I got a bit of success of running and winning, and then I wanted a little bit more and more. And then by the time I kind of hit 15, it was like, okay, this is it. Dropped every single other sport. And then once I was 17, I was like, I'm committing to this. And I think it was just that individual of being able to know that if I'm not winning, that's on me and I don't have other people to blame. So that therefore brought in initiative and responsibility for myself at a young age. And that when I did win, I also knew obviously small aspects of that was to my coaches as well, but also to myself running that race. And I knew that the harder I worked, the better the success would become. And that success that I felt at that time, I wanted more of.
You and I have known each other for a little while now, and we've had many friendly disagreements or competitive arguments, shall we say, because for anyone that knows Abbie, they know that she absolutely loves to win. It could be the smallest thing in the world, but she'll make sure that she wins it. So I think that's fantastic. I think that's fantastic. Something, Abbie, that many might not know about you at such a young age is you've obviously grown up and love the track and field world, which is great, but you've got the opportunity to travel the world to do what you do. So Barcelona in Spain, Germany, Korea, Bahamas, Italy, just to name a few. How's that been like for you?
Yeah, I think it's been, eye-opening would be the right word. I think going and living in such a fortunate world as we do here in Australia, not that the rest of the world isn't like that, because it is, but it's just eye-opening to see how other people live and how lucky I am and how fortunate I am to be in such a safe country. And I think it was when I was 17 years old when I headed off to Barcelona for my World Under-20 Championships. My mother and father and myself went over to Italy, and I just experienced, what life really is like over there. And I think at that point is when I really opened my eyes to realize how fortunate and lucky I was. So as much as I get to see all these beautiful things and beautiful places and experience all this stuff, it is cool. But on the other aspect of things, it's also quite eye-opening. And I think that's taught me a lot and got me where I am today in seeing that at such an early age and just seeing how lucky and fortunate I am.
Favorite place that you've been?
Oh, this is a tough one. Do I have to have one?
Okay, maybe a couple of favorite places.
Absolutely loved Italy. My background is Italian as my dad, so I really did love spending some time over there. But I really enjoyed the Bahamas and Barcelona, so they would probably be my top few places that I really loved.
Okay, while we're talking about traveling and we're talking about these wonderful places in the world you've been, where's somebody that somewhere that you've competed that you maybe didn't expect to get such a good result? Where's that place that for you just seem to do quite well?
I think in terms of not having the results I wanted, are you talking about when I was overseas and not having those results?
Or possibly here as well, yeah, any competition?
Probably Barcelona back in 2012.
Sure.
I went over there, I was quite young, naive, and in saying that, this was 150%, I'll put my hand up and say it was my own fault. I was 18 years old and I'd decided I'd found other aspects through my life that were a lot more fun, didn't realize I had to train as hard and things like that. So I went over with a very naive approach that I'd go over to World Juniors and I'd make, top 8 and finish in a final and things like that. And I guess you can say when I got over there, a bit of a reality check, a bit of a slap to the face, that the decisions I was making outside training and outside, what I was training towards at the time kind of slapped me. I didn't even make it out of my heat. I had to progress through 3 rounds to make that final. So I had to go to a heat, had to go to a semi and then make that final. Didn't even make it out of the heat. I think I'd ran my 2nd or 3rd slowest time of the season. So that was the first one. And then I've also had some pretty big downers back home in Sydney. But I also think that's part of the sport. It's very turbulent. It's like a roller coaster. One minute you're up, the next minute you're down. You don't know how long those highs are going to last for. So I've definitely experienced in all aspects and all areas of the world that I've traveled, as well as being back home. But I think the biggest ones would probably have been that World Juniors for me back in 2012. But I also think at that time I took away a lesson from that and realised that I took the initiative to go, yep, that was my fault. And that was just because of some choices that I was making at the time.
I think what's quite impressive about that, Abs, is you were able to identify that and to be able to go, okay, I need to make some appropriate changes here in order to better myself for whatever's next. Which leads me into my next point, and it's a reason that I admire what you do, is your routine, your schedule, and what goes on. So can you give anybody listening a bit of an understanding of what a week in the life of Abbie looks like?
So in terms of physical sessions, I'm training every single day except Friday. Friday is my complete day off where my coach gives me a rest day. Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm training twice a day with a gym session as well as a cross training session. I'm doing recovery sessions every single night except a Friday. I give myself 24 hours to stop. But I'm probably looking, in terms of physical sessions, 8 physical sessions, but prehab as well. They take me about 45 minutes. So that's all my weaknesses I have. So that's 3 times a week.
Yep.
That brings it up to 11. And then I'd also count it as a physical session, which is my stretching 6 days a week too. So 17 sessions, maybe a little bit more. Sitting in ice baths, saunas, you know, it doesn't seem physical, but it is quite demanding on my body. It's hard at times in terms of jumping in a 10-degree bath, sometimes colder in the middle of winter. You know, instead of going home and having those nice luxury hot baths, you know, I'm still putting my body through some sort of physical demand. So yeah, I guess you could say maybe even 18 sessions a week. That's a lot.
Wow. Yeah, that is a lot. And you're making me feel extremely lazy, 18 sessions a week. Abbie, tell me, I guarantee you there's times that mentally you don't want to do some of those sessions. What makes you get up and still do those sessions as opposed to somebody else?
I get to a point where I ask myself, more times than not, I'm going through a week and I'm unmotivated. There's no chance that I'm motivated. I wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning. I go to bed most nights at 8 o'clock. But I think I just ask myself the question, why? Why did I start this? Why do I want to do this? And I have a few things that hang around my room that remind me. I have even certain codes on my phone to access that reminds me of my sport, pictures on the back of my phone, lock screens, home screens, back of my laptop, and it takes me back to one moment. No matter how hard or how unmotivated I am at the point of time, I kind of look at those and I reflect and I put it to the side and know how much better I'm going to feel on the other end of things. And the quicker I start, it's kind of like taking a leap of faith for me. The quicker I start it, the quicker it can get done. And I just, as I said, just ask myself why I'm doing it.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And in my experience in sport and also being on the same side, watching you in what you do, motivation plays a huge part. But something else that plays a huge part is having a good team around you. Let's talk about your team.
Yeah, so my team's quite small. I don't have this big, huge team. I don't trust people. Okay, I do trust people, but it takes me a while to trust people.
Sure.
As Jay might be aware, he's probably been in my life for the last 2-3 years, maybe. He knows I'm very what you see is what you get type of girl, and there's no backwards and coming forwards. But I think it's, you know, the people I have around me, I trust a lot. And that's one person in particular, my S&C coach. I've had a relationship with him since 2010, 2011. So we're nearly going on 10 years next year. I've had a track coach since 2011 as well, who I trust. You know, we've had some terrible seasons together and we've also had some very successful seasons. So I trust her. And then I've got a physiotherapist who I trust like the back of my hand. I have a Pilates instructor as well, who I also trust, who's helped me a lot with my injury prevention. I've also got a sports psych who I've only met within probably the last 2 years. Took me a while to gain that relationship, as any relationship does, and building that trust. But he's been very, very patient, to say the least, with me. But in terms of those, you know, 5 main people in terms of my team, my physiotherapist, my Pilates instructor, track coach, gym coach, and physiotherapist, my family, my friends. I live in a very small town, quite a while away from where I base all my training at. I also have some friends up in Sydney, which I'm very, very lucky. But in particular, those family and friends down home, track doesn't exist in my life, which is really nice. So they're very supportive. They get it. We don't speak about it. They ask about it, but they know when to cross that line and when not to. And I think that's the big thing. But that's also been a team I've been building now for 12 years. Hasn't just happened like the click of the finger. It's been taking a while, but the small team I do have around me, I trust with the back of my hand. So yeah, it's been pretty special for me.
Yeah, it has, and you and I have had many conversations off camera before about your team, and I know how much you value them. I want to bring up one person in particular, and you mentioned him, your strength and conditioning coach, David Boyle. I've had
Yeah.
the privilege of working with David. He's now doing some wonderful things with the NRL match officials as the high performance manager there. How would you explain that, man?
I wouldn't have enough words to explain him. He's a great guy. I like to call him the GOAT in my life, which for all you guys that don't know, greatest of all time. The relation we have is like a daughter and father. We yell, we scream, we fight, we everything, we swear. We probably have good, like more bad moments than we have good moments. But I think there's one thing about me that he does very, very well. He pushes me mentally. Yes, he pushes me physically, but he pushes me mentally. He pushes me to think outside the box, and he pushes me to be a better person on and off the track. So the relationship I have with him is as close as a father and daughter could get. He knows absolutely everything about me, good, bad, or indifferent. And I've been lucky enough to share this journey with him for nearly the last 10 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, pretty special one to me.
He's a very good strength and conditioning coach, but more importantly, he's also a very good person. And that's obvious. So for anyone that might be watching this, Abbie, that wants to be a successful strength and conditioning coach, or wants to have a strong understanding of how to work with elite athletes, what do you appreciate the most about David's work?
His honesty. Every good, bad, or indifferent thing. To give you a little insight, 2 years ago, I gained quite a significant amount of weight. He was the first guy to tell me. And I'm honestly, not much phases me at all. So that was pretty hard to take. But I think the biggest thing that I can't thank him enough for, and trying to be that successful strength and conditioning coach, and it is hard, it's a very competitive world, but to have that honesty with your athlete, but also there's only so much honesty that you can take as an athlete, and I understand that, but you also, in an individual sport, which I've learnt with him in the last 10 years, and it wasn't easy at the start, I'll 100% say that, but as an athlete, you need to be able to cop constructive criticism. If you can't cop it, you also aren't helping your coach be as successful as they can. So I think with him, the biggest thing is that honesty. Another aspect that he brings to the table every single day is consistency. He's always there for me, whether it's a 2 a.m. call in the morning, whether it's 5 o'clock in the morning. He's at every single session. He's putting 150% in, just as much as what I am. He's always motivating me to be better. So I think the consistency, the honesty, and he's very reliable for me. So as I said, 2 a.m. in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he's there.
He certainly is, and I know that for a fact. I have relied on him many times myself for advice, and he answers at all times. Abbie, just quickly before we finish up, I'd like to ask you, what are 2 or 3 attributes in regards to your personality and your makeup of an athlete that you believe has made you as successful as you've been so far, I guess?
I think disappointment would be one of them. Or I guess some people like to call it failure. I've failed more times than I've succeeded, and I probably will moving forward. But when I am in that dark point of failure that I think is failure, I always want more. I'm always getting up and I'm always showing again. I said so. So I think failure is one of them. Hardship would be another. Determination would definitely be another. I'd like to think I'm a pretty determined type of woman.
I can confirm that, yes.
But I think, I don't know what word I'd use for this, but I went through some pretty bad things personally.
Sure.
Back 4 years ago, and I think that made my life do a 360. And at that point, it made me realize a few things in terms of sometimes things don't last forever. life is, it's a pretty cruel world out there, but if you support yourself with some great people, it can be a beautiful world too. But I think as well as not giving people the pain that you're also going, and try and always be that better person. So probably those three factors would be the biggest one for me. Was probably in my personal life 4 years ago that I went through. I think that's definitely made me 99.9% of the human that I am today. So as I guess you'd call it failure. So yeah, I think that.
Okay. Some really interesting points you make there. And that all comes to my final question for you, my final topic, Abs. And you've been preparing for many years, a very long time. What were the emotions that you received when you found out that the Olympics were postponed?
Uh, Probably still haven't got over it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Okay. I felt like there was essentially a hole missing from me. I didn't know what to do. I was turning up to sessions. I was, I was waking up in the morning at the time when we didn't know the Olympics was postponed, I should say, but our national championships got postponed before we heard the news on the Olympics being postponed. So when I was kind of still turning up to sessions with our national championships postponed and having to be put 3 months back, I was turning up very lost and confused. And then when the Olympics got the final announcement that they were postponed, I think I was just done physically, mentally and emotionally. And I was pretty lucky in the sense to be able to, I think the biggest thing for me personally was dealing with those emotions and not pushing them to a side. And I like to use a little saying that, you can stuff a drawer so much, but if you keep stuffing it, eventually it's going to break. So I think for me, when I found out that call that it was postponed, and essentially I didn't know if I was going, I was training towards it. I didn't know though. But I think moving forward, it was just dealing with the emotions and knowing that some days are going to be better than others. And then once I kind of wrapped my head around that, I was pretty fortunate that both my coaches come to the party and said, hey, let's just have a 2-week break. Let's just be normal. Let's reevaluate a few things and let's switch off. That helped a lot because I wasn't thinking about having to turn up to training and finding that motivation because the Olympics was postponed and all this kind of stuff. So, I think it was just dealing with those emotions. It was pretty hard and it was hard news to hear. Hurts every athlete, but I also remember too, I'm not the only one going through this. There's people that had already qualified. They'd already had people, their name on the ticket to jump on that plane and go to Tokyo. I think now looking at it, I think it's a blessing in disguise. Our health must and needs to come first. Otherwise we won't perform at our best. But secondly, it gives us athletes another chance to build more strength, for myself personally, work on my, weaknesses. I don't like to call them weaknesses, but work on those things that I'm not as good at and turn them into strengths, and as well as have another year just to build another 365 days, which I think is a very, very valuable thing for an athlete to be able to have. And as I said, I wasn't sure if I was going. I wanted to. I was putting 150%. I would have cut my left arm off to make that team, but now I've just got another 365 days to build.
I think that's exciting, and I love your view on that you're just looking at the extra time that you have towards preparing to be even better. Abbie, that's really exciting, and I hope that we get the opportunity to do this again and have another chat and see where you're at. But I guess my final thing for you is, what does the future hold? What are the plans going forward?
In terms of track or personal?
Oh, hey, you give us whatever you think.
Track wise, obviously Olympics 2021 Tokyo next year. So I actually just sat down with my S&C coach yesterday, had 2.5 hour chat, and we worked backwards and worked out how long I need in terms of preparation. And for me, this isn't just waking up this year and going, hey, guess what? We're going to the Olympics next year. This has been a 4-year plan since 2016. I had an opportunity to go for that selection, wasn't successful, didn't make it. So I think from that point, I've turned all that hurt, disappointment into determination. So, moving forward, making that team, as well as trying to also, had done my undergrad at ACPE, so using my degree as well with the coaching, Bachelor of Coaching. So using that to try and get myself up in the, I guess, sporting world. What I want to do, I'm still not 150% sure yet. I've had a lot of opportunity. I was actually very lucky going back to, probably sounds like I'm just talking about David this whole time, but he's given me quite a few opportunities. So I started doing some speed coaching with the NRL referees, which I absolutely loved. I learned a lot about very intense environment, which I absolutely love, very professional. So I have been able to put my foot in a few doors. I'm working in a gym down home where I'm training people, and I love the aspect of being able to help people and change their mental state to make their physical state better. So also using my degree to get further up in the sporting world, as well as try and make that Tokyo Olympic team, and probably looking at doing my master's in sports coaching to try and be a little bit more, because as Jay has said to me on a number of times, knowledge is power.
Yeah,
and I 150% believe in that statement. So there's a few things going on moving forward. So yeah, I'm looking forward to them.
Well, Abbie, firstly, anyone listening to this, I did not put her up to paying or paid her to say that, but I cannot thank you enough. And as a friend, I cannot wait to see your success over the next couple of years. I think from the questions that I've asked you, it's very clear that you're extremely driven in what you want to achieve. You have achieved some things already, but more importantly, you are constantly striving for more, and you are wanting to be the best you can possibly be. So thank you for your time. And I have no doubt that we will talk again soon and have a catch up on exactly where you're at with everything.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No worries at all. Thanks, Abs.